with all of the insanity in the news today, I can't believe this story was not bigger. Albuquerque is calling in the National Guard due to violent crime. This is a really big deal, but it's no one really was talking about it. They say a state of emergency has been declared in New Mexico's largest city as the governor calls in the National Guard to help combat out-of-control crime. Action by the Democratic governor clears the way for dozens of Guard members to help Albuquerque Police Department starting next month. About 60 to 70 soldiers will be stationed in the largest city, home to over a quarter of the state. From 6 months to a year, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham told reporters Tuesday. Grisham pulled the trigger after the chief of police asked for assistance at the end of March. So I guess defunding the police didn't work out for these Democrat states, huh?
This is what happens, man. You know, my family actually fled California, you know, because of things like this, you know, the governance. Like, Newsom is a horrible, horrible governor. Like, I'm like, we moved to Texas and like it's so much freer. You know, you just feel it in the air. The people are nicer. And I love California. You know, I grew up in California, man, but it's just sad to see what has happened there. Even the policies that they're implementing, you know, they became, was it the first state to allow, I think it was 15-year-olds to get, you know, the surgeries, the rainbow surgery. Right. Yeah. So just things like that, man, what's going on in the schools, you know, it's just horrible, man. It's sad to see what has happened to what was once a great state. You know,
This is crazy.
Yeah, when did you move out of Cali? I still want to talk about
this. Was about 3 years ago. So I literally was born and raised in California, man, and it's really all I knew. But we didn't feel like we had a choice. You know, I have a family. You know, I have 3 daughters, so I'm like, we can't raise them in this kind of environment. You know, where they're letting out, you know, people who do things to children.
Is it similar over there in New Mexico? I don't know much about New Mexican government.
New Mexico is very Democrat,
and
crime is running rampant.
Yeah, these border states are going to need to start taking security very seriously. I'm like, I want to live in the desert. I'm like, I don't want to live near that border.
Is Trump going to have to go in and enforce the law? The Insurrection Act says when local laws are not being enforced, the president can can take command of the National Guard and move in.
Okay. Well, I like that the state called up its own National Guard. That's a good sign.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's not a good sign for the world, but it's a good sign that the state's taking the authority and not just letting it happen so that the president's not going to need to get involved.
I'm kind of shocked that nobody cares about this story. Like, not that nobody cares, but it just wasn't on the radar of anybody. And, you know.
Were they defunding the police?
I mean, all the Democrat cities were. I'm just saying, like, guys, crime has gotten so bad that the state has declared a state of emergency. Like, that's how bad it is. And we're like, well, we got bigger fish to fry. You know, the global economy is in chaos.
Yeah, there's like layers of emergency all happening at once. We got the global economic emergency, then we got these state emergencies.
Mary came on the show and said nothing ever happens.
Dude, the last 5 days have been wild.
The other day when we were getting ready for the show, I said to her, I was like, so are you still in camp? Nothing ever happened? She was like, that stuck with you, didn't it? And I was like, yes, because literally nothing will stop happening. Like it will just, like, everything is happening all the time. And I'd love to just, I don't know, play some Fallout or something.
Yeah, real life's better, but that would be kind of cool too.
It's like every day I sit down and I'm like, here's 57 stories. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, you said you were like maybe had your head in the internet too much. Have you been feeling that lately?
No, I was joking.
God, dude, it's so intense in there, man.
In the internet?
Especially X, like social media, man, it gets so crazy. You know, bombs are being thrown here, lobbed here. Everybody's, you know, fighting. That's why it took me actually a while to really take X serious because of that kind of environment. You know, this was even before Elon, stuff like, you know, this was happening. So it's kind of, sometimes I have to like step away from social media and just give it a break because it can feel like it's overwhelming.
I get that with text a lot because if I go in a rough, bad headspace and I just read, I'm putting my bad tone on the text and it's like compounding my emotions. Video at least takes me into their feel and I can like feel their vibe and it'll lift me up if they're in a good place. Yeah. But the text is like just a hell zone of like trying to dodge these emotions.
One thing I love about social media though is the information that we're allowed to be, you know, privy to now. You know, like before we had to take the media's word for it. Like, we just watched, oh, this is what happened over here, this is what happened over there. We just believed it, but now it's like we have people who are doing great, journalism and actually getting on the ground and investigating, and, we're able to find these people on social media and connect with them. And, I think that's one good thing about X.
Yeah, for better or for worse. I mean, on the inverse, you have a bunch of weirdos doing the same thing and causing problems.
Right.
AOC would never have gotten elected to office if it wasn't for the internet. She and the squad get all their donations from outside their district. So basically, you get some fringe crackpot that no one thinks is worth, electing. But then she tells all the other fringe crackpots around the country, and they donate money to her, and then she's rich, and then she,
and all that internet censorship is to prevent a crazy person from getting all these votes and money from all around the world and becoming powerful. They're like, we can't, but then that's like happening anyway. So, and we're free speech. We don't want to censor people like Cortez, anybody really, if you want to use the law to your advantage and use social media to get elected.
These companies are doing it anyway, though. I was talking about it on the ride up. If you've been on TikTok, I've been banned about 7 to 8 times on TikTok already. Okay, so these companies are doing it already. Facebook just took me down for like 2 weeks, and Mark Zuckerberg supposedly, changed his ways. Right? He grew out the hair, and he's cool now, and he supports Trump. But
Lies.
I was taken down off Facebook for about 2 weeks straight. They just put my personal page back up. Like I said, TikTok 8 times been banned. Instagram censors me out of this world.
Dude, and TikTok is the most censorious, but you got Trump sycophants who are just acting like, let's not ban it, let's not control it. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't like the way they went about the ban because I felt like it was going to set a precedent so they could ban X next.
That's a lie.
You don't think it would have? I was concerned that it would have.
This is the funniest thing. There was never a component of that. We went through the bill over and over and over again. It was never going to ban X. There were just people who wanted to defend TikTok who were lying. TikTok is bad. We need control of it.
And then they banned it. They passed the bill, and then Trump just was like, "Yeah, we're just going to ignore it." What happened? Did they repeal it? Did it not go through the Senate? I don't.
Bill?
Yeah,
It's passed.
So how is he just ignore? Why
Exactly. What is the mechanism by which the president of the United States has ignored a bill that was passed by both houses of Congress, signed by the president, and upheld by the Supreme Court, and the president goes, no.
Orange man bad.
I don't. Is it because we're in a state of emergency so he can override?
No, he's just not doing the ostensibly the president can decide how he executes laws passed by Congress, and he's decided that he's going to execute this one slow and sloppy. Maybe I mean or that he's not going to execute it. The president shouldn't have this discretion. Right, Congress passes a law. The president, especially one that goes to the SCOTUS, and the Supreme Court comes down and says, "Yes, this is okay." And like Tim said, one that he himself signed. Right, so the Congress passes it. The president signs into law.
Signed it. Like right before he left office.
Was it Biden?
I think Biden signed it.
Oh, Biden signed it. Okay, my bad. So Biden signs it, goes to the SCOTUS, comes back, and then President Trump just decides he's not going to. This is the same reasoning that President Obama used when it came to like Dreamers, right? The deferred action for whatever residents or whatever.
Childhood arrivals.
Yeah. These people were here illegally, but they came here as children, and President Obama said, we're not going to deport them because it's mean. But legally, they're supposed to get deported. But the president has that kind of discretion as to how he's going to implement the laws passed by Congress. In my opinion, it should not be, he shouldn't have so much leeway. He should have to, particularly when there are certain things that, he's forced to, like when it comes to like spending bills and stuff like that. He has to spend all of the money. If I understand correctly, he has to spend all the money. And if he doesn't, that's some kind of dereliction that Congress would get all worked up about. So he should be required to actually enforce the laws that are passed.
I like that discretion on how to uphold the law within like some sort of variant or gradient of actually enforcing the law. Like you can't just use your discretion to enforce it zero. It has to be at least you're enforcing it, and then you can maybe have some leeway of how you're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. I would think so, but apparently not.
So I get it.
Especially something that's like TikTok is national. The point of TikTok is it's national security. ostensibly, right? There are people that are going to say, "Oh, it's because of Israel and stuff," but the argument is this is a national security issue because it's owned by China. And China, again, I completely agree when people say that China is not a friend; they are actually a rival. Their behavior and their long-term goals are a threat to the United States. We should not be, playing with China like this. We should have a hard line with China.
Yeah, and they flat out just ban conservatives and Trump supporters, and while letting all other kinds of content just go crazy and promote, the gender fluidity to kids and, people having chopped off members. They have no problem promoting that stuff, but when it comes to conservative views, they silence people. And I'm a living example of that about 7-8 times. And it's not like I'm on there bashing people or anything. I'm not. I'm giving a Christian conservative view on things.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.